Welcome to Grappling with Gray, a forum for promoting an ethical mindset and ethical decision-making to help us more clearly see both sides of complex issues and better navigate the moral challenges of everyday life. I'm Rabbi Yonason Goldson, and I would like to welcome my guest today. I have Dave Bricker, who's a speaker, presentation consultant, and sailing aficionado. He works with leaders and professionals to master the art of business storytelling on the stage, on the page, or on the screen. Kimberly Davis is an author, TEDx speaker, and founder of Brave Leadership University, leading development programs worldwide around authentic leadership, purpose, presence, and influence. And Carl Liu works with organizations that want to increase productivity, engagement, and profits by decreasing turnover and burnout. He's a keynote speaker and author of Mondays Reimagined, Master Your Monday, Win the Week. Thank you all for being with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Hey,
Pleasure to be here.
And here is today's ethics challenge. From time to time, the makers of soda and sports drinks promote their products through bottle cap lotteries. After opening your drink, you can check online to see if the number printed inside the cap is a winner. True story. A group of coworkers were sitting together and socializing in the lunchroom. When the break was over, they got up to return to work. That's when one of them, let's call her Zelda, noticed that someone, she didn't know who, had left a bottle cap on the table. She recognized it as a lottery cap and picked it up. Later, she checked the number and discovered the cap was $1 million winner.
Wow.
When the original owner, call him Victor, learned about the winning cap, he claimed that the money was his. When Zelda insisted the cap and the winnings were hers, Victor sued her in New York State Court. Regardless of the decision of the court, what are the ethical issues involved in the story? What should Zelda have done, if anything, upon discovering that the cap was worth $1 million? Does Victor have any ethical claim after apparently discarding the cap? The floor is open.
So how does Victor know it's his and not anyone else in the groups?
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect of the story. Yeah, it could be he was the only one drinking that particular brand of drink. Apparently, that's something they were able to determine, although I had the same question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
It's
Hey.
interesting that you chose to name him Victor, because sounds
What a
like he was more of a
coincidence.
loser, but you know, I'm also wondering about the ethical implications of clean up your table when you're finished eating.
Yeah, that crossed my mind too.
Well, so I don't think anyone should be out $1 million because they left a bottle cap on the table. However, I do think Zelda might have had a responsibility to say, hey, I found this, and here's what I suggest. I suggest that if it turns out to be anything, we share the profits. And then they would share it equally. But I don't think that either one of them has full claim unambiguously to the money.
Well, and what about so it was a table. Was that table inside of a business?
Apparently, it was a lunchroom in a business. Yeah.
Ooh.
The table. So now there's a third dimension there of maybe that's the business's property.
Interesting.
Because it was on their on their property, on their real estate or whatever, in their building. And I don't know. So if that's the case, then you might have to go to the employee handbook and see, who owns something, if there is such a thing, the employee's handbook, or whatever legal writings there are about that company.
What strikes me is that, first of all, Zelda was cleaning up the table. Someone else left stuff behind. She cleaned it up. Victor opted out of the game. I mean, it was one thing if he had posted a note on the bulletin board, did anybody find my bottle cap? But I mean, if you found $1 million bottle cap, Would you accidentally leave it on the table? I don't think so. But then what I wonder is, why did Zelda then make any noise about it? Now, there are plenty of things that she could have done to, like, let's find who ate in the lunchroom that day and split it up. There are some nice things she could have done. But in terms of her ethical obligations, she could have taken that home. Nobody would have been the wiser. Her life might have been better for it. But she went, I mean, what was her purpose in telling somebody about it? Hey, whoever left that bottle cap on the table,
Yeah,
guess
that
what?
was-
I got your $1 million. There's something almost mean-spirited about that. Now, legally, I mean, okay, she finders keepers, right? That's an old principle. And I would expect a court to rule in that direction. But to make somebody wallow in their misfortune, guess what? I found the $1 million you accidentally left on the table. That's not a very ethical thing to do.
I'm inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt there. I mean, if you win $1 million, you want to tell a couple of your friends about it and share your good fortune. And it may never even have occurred to her that this was going to come back in any way. I mean, I look at it this way. What if it hadn't been a lottery cap? Then what would the presumed status of that cap have been?
It would have gone in the garbage.
Exactly. It's not something that's recognizable as having value. If I leave my phone at the table when I walk away, then the presumption is anybody sees that, well, they know this is valuable. They know, and it has identifying features on it, and they can track down the person who it belongs. But if I leave something that looks like trash, and you have to have outside knowledge before you have reason to believe it's not trash, I think there's sort of a presumption that this is ownerless and anyone can claim it.
However, it was just left on a table and not thrown in the trash. So that leaves a little crack in the door, That leaves the door.
It kind of goes to Dave's point. Why did the person take care of his own garbage?
Right.
Right.
What, I mean, what was it there with his empty bottle and his dirty plate and his I mean, I don't know. I mean, but left the bottle cap with or without some other stuff on the table for somebody else to clean up. I don't have any problem with her putting that bottle cap in her pocket and walking away with it. My real problem with her is the idea that she went and bragged about it, knowing, at least subconsciously, that somebody's going to come out the $1 million loser and feel pretty bad about it.
So I don't know. I don't know that I interpret it as her bragging about it. Maybe naively excited and sharing, like Jonathan said. And I don't know. I mean, my instinct is, well, $1 million is a lot of money, and you were eating with a group of people. Why wouldn't you split it with a group of people? Not just Victor, but like say, hey, we were all together when this happened, and like, that's.
I want to have lunch with you, Kimberly.
Right.
I know, yeah, let's have lunch.
And Kimberly, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I would certainly do something like that. However, does she have an ethical, moral obligation to do that? I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I feel like it's the not, and I don't mean right thing to do, like ethically right thing to do, but I think it's the right thing to do as a human being that cares about the people that you were with, right? That because there's going to be fallout if you don't, relationship fallout if you don't honor
Kimberly,
the relationships that were at that table.
So Kimberly, would you say maybe designate a certain percentage of everybody that was involved to everybody that was involved?
Yeah, why not?
Well,
I mean, I'm
let's say there was
also
5
in
people.
there are 5 people. $1 million is a lot of money. They're still doing pretty well. And yesterday they didn't have anything. So it's I think that's pretty amazing.
There's risk to doing that, though.
The problem there is definitely a problem doing that. Go ahead.
Because if hey, Victor, I found your bottle cap and you might not know it, but it's worth $1 million. How about we split this? And then Victor says, oh, you found my bottle cap. That's mine. You're not getting anything.
Well, that's exactly what happened.
That is what happened. Yeah.
That is what happened. So
yeah.
that didn't work.
That sounds like a fair thing to do, but then coming to agreement on that is it's tricky play, a tricky thing.
Yeah, it's easy for us sitting here that we don't have to split up any money. But money does change people very quickly.
It's too bad.
It is too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad.
But
I don't know. I think I would not be able to own get $1 million without feeling like I would feel emotional repercussions for keeping that all for myself. I don't
You
think
get
I would
over
be
it.
able. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know,
what-
but
able to
I think
afford
she would
therapy you needed.
Yeah,
With
she totally
therapy,
need, I mean, she has to be willing to kiss those relationships goodbye because there's going to be resentment.
Well, what happens if she
Well,
shares it
For
with
sure.
those people in the lunchroom and then the other people in the office hear about it and say, hey, just because
We're
we
part of
weren't in
this
the lunchroom
building,
at the
that's right.
time, how come we don't
Well,
get
that
a
was
piece of
my
it?
bottle cap. I didn't see Victor in the lunchroom. I mean,
So Kimberly, what would happen if you got nothing and you were sitting at the table? How would you be with that?
If I got nothing and I was sitting at the table,
Yeah,
I think
everything.
I mean, if I didn't drink the soda, or I mean, if I had nothing to do with the soda, I'd probably be like, I'd be happy for Zelda, you know, but if I did anything, had anything to do with the soda. So let's say I'm in purchasing and I buy the sodas for the company or whatever.
What if you were Zelda and you got nothing?
And I got nothing.
Mhm.
I think I'd probably be resentful.
but the path of least resistance, the path that causes the least potential conflict, is for Zelda to go, nice, put that in her pocket.
And not to share where she got it. I don't
because,
disagree with that. But
you know,
but the cat's out of the bag. So once the cat's out of the bag,
It's
it's
going to be
going to
discovered
scratch
somehow.
everybody.
Yeah.
Well, let's
I
pursue
don't
that
know,
line,
Carl.
Dave.
I mean, I think to Dave's point that had she not said, I found this on the lunch table where we were all sitting and Victor, you were drinking this soda. I mean, then I mean, she could have just bought a soda on her way home that night.
Well,
You know, who
Yeah,
would
but
know?
I don't know. I think she'd have on her conscience that somehow it would be found out because, you know, it's going to be announced in a newspaper or something. Maybe she's going to be getting a check and on the front page somewhere.
Another way is, let's say that she was sitting across from Victor, and after he left the table, she checked the bottle caps. It's like, oh, Victor's bottle cap was $1 million winner. She could go to Victor and say, hey, you're going to love this. Remember your friends. Now there's risk in that too. There's certainly no risk of incurring a moral injury, and you find out what your friends are made of. Now, Victor may be a jerk and say, thanks, I quit. You'll never see me again. I'm retiring. Or he might say, that's amazing. Let's split this. I mean, it really,
Victor's
kind of
definitely not
banking-
that guy though, Dave. He's not that's amazing. Let's split it because he took her to court.
Yeah, he didn't sue
Right.
for half. He sued for the whole thing.
but what we
Yeah.
don't know is she may have said, hey, I found your $1 million that you abandoned on the table. You opted out of the game. I chose to play it. I won. And so long, sucker. I mean, Zelda may have been the jerk. And I don't think Victor has much of a legal leg to stand on. But if she rubbed it in his face or something like that, I can see how he'd be a little
This
for the
does
whole
not
that.
bring out the best in humankind. I will just say that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's hard to say what to assume there, though, isn't it, Dave? Because maybe she didn't rub it in his face. Maybe she approached him and said, you know, I just found this. How would you like $100,000? Because I moved it all the way through the process. How would you like $100,000? And he may have been the jerk and said, no, 100,000 won't cut it. I get it all.
Mhm.
So, and you know, it's a contentious situation, no doubt.
Well, in the
The real winners are the lawyers here.
That's
Right.
right. That's exactly right.
Well, in the banter that led up to before the live broadcast here, we were talking about, because I'm in Miami here and there's a hurricane passing by overhead, we were talking about natural disasters and things, because that's just the way to get to know each other, right? Is to talk about horrible things. But there's this idea that, God, if you don't you're either going to cry about it or you're going to laugh about it. And okay, someone else found your $1 million. If that happened to me, I think I would laugh very hard. I mean, what else are you going to do? Boy, it would have been nice to have that, but easy come, easy go. It's
Well, that's
just
a healthy
money.
perspective. That's a very healthy perspective.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, bad stuff happens to all of us. Sometimes we just miss the bus and we're not going to make it to our appointment, which means we miss the job interview, which means whatever it is, the dominoes fall. If you can't stand there at the bus stop and just laugh as the bus pulls away, then what else can you do?
Well, it certainly
Yeah,
makes
but I
life
don't
more
think most
pleasant.
people, yeah, I don't think most people do are as enlightened as you are, Dave. I suspect most people it would damage the relationship. I think that however you cut it, these relationships are toast unless you
Yeah.
find a way to make it be generous.
You know,
in
and
this
even if you
situation.
share it, the relationships are toast because
Yeah.
somebody's gonna have a poison pill about they should have gotten more, and somebody else is gonna have a poison pill about that person shouldn't have gotten that much. I mean, it's all over the place unless you can just laugh it off, like Dave says.
Well, you know,
Right.
you might be able to laugh at the bus missing the bus. Laughing off $1 million is a different level. There is a Jewish custom that when you break something, a dish or a coffee cup, say Mazel Tov, because
What's it mean? What's it mean?
It means congratulations,
Okay.
or good fortune, because what you're saying is that this thing has served its purpose in the world, and because it broke, it means it's accomplished everything it was created to do.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which
That's
you know,
cool.
we
That's
have
really
a
cool.
chance,
Sharing
especially
that.
when you have
That's
a
wonderful.
house with kids, you have the opportunity
Yeah.
to practice that.
They muzzle
Yeah.
tough a lot.
What can you do? I mean, let's say Zelda keeps the money, but every day at work you get to say, God, I so wanted to feed those orphans this morning. And then the next, you come up with a new one each day. And,
But I do think that brings up a very good point, David. A lot of how people interpreted this will be based on their own personal needs. So if Victor is already quite wealthy and Zelda is caring for her sick parents and doesn't have a home of her own, and it changes the scenario based on need and who really needs.
But I think that's a good.
so-
I think it's an important point to consider, because I mean, let's sort of dramatize that a little bit. Let's say that Victor is not necessarily wealthy, or he probably wouldn't be working in the same office, but he's working, his wife's working, they don't have any kids, and they've got they're very comfortable.
Mhm.
And Zelda's a single mom and has has 2 kids and a sick father, and that money could mean quite something different to her.
It would change her life.
Yeah,
Some real tangible impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of variable. I often make reference to this really awful phrase, situational ethics, which is used to mean that ethics change depending on the situation, and that's absolutely not true. The principles of ethics are always constant, but circumstances are different,
Right.
and priorities shift depending upon those variables. So
Right.
there are always a number of factors that could really change the dynamic here, depending on how we spin the story.
Complicated.
I just can't believe he took her to court, though. That feels so wrong.
Well, again,
and the fact
Kimberly,
that he doesn't take any accountability for the fact that he discarded it, whether that was an accident or not, but he doesn't seem to be
But I think
accountable
that's
for that.
I think that's a way to look at it. In other words, neither one would have anything without the other.
Right.
And that may be an ethical angle to come at this from, that yes, he was careless to lose the cap. She was on the ball to pick it up, but it wouldn't have been there in the first place if not
Right.
for him. And so, the Solomonic, is that a word? Answer is to really split it. We were partners, unintentional partners in this.
Yes. I absolutely agree
But
with
I think the
that.
point that
I
Dave
can
made
understand
earlier
that.
is that she doesn't know if she goes to him, whether he's going to be amenable to that.
Sounds like she made the right call. Look what happened. She just should have shut her mouth. The guy was a jerk.
Well, I mean, unless she refused, and again, I heard the story secondhand, so it'd be interesting to know all the details exactly how the conversation went.
Yeah.
You know, if she
Well,
simply said, "Well, you know, I found it. You threw it away. You had no interest in it, and so it's all mine," or if you know, if she was willing to discuss giving part of it
Right, because
to
I
him.
think to your point, Jonathan, when you dig in and say it's mine, that brings out the opposite side in human nature of the other person, where they're like, well, wait a second. So had she come at it from a we're in this together perspective, would that have changed things? Did she do that? We don't know. But my assumption is that there was something that happened that caused that equal and opposite reaction, right?
the animosity. Yeah.
Well, no,
Mhm.
it's perhaps a tangential issue. I'll tell you, I rarely play the lottery because buying a ticket only slightly increases my chances of winning. However, we had this big Powerball, I think last weekend it was 1.6 billion and it went up to 1.9. Insane amount of money. And I don't know if any of you played, but haven't you ever played the mind game? What if? What would I do?
That's
The
why you buy the
last thing
ticket.
in the world I would do is tell people I just took home $1 billion after taxes. As a matter of fact, I'd probably take that ticket, put it in a safety deposit box, and talk to accountants and lawyers and figure out the most anonymous way, because you're painting a big target on your back.
Very
And
true.
so, I mean, most people have bought a lotto ticket at some time. Didn't they think about, gee, what would happen if I suddenly came into a lot of money? Well, the vultures are going to start circling is what's going to happen. And so, okay, wow, bottle cap, $1 million bottle cap. Think I'm going to go and
She could have retired and just moved away to another country, maybe.
yeah, maybe she's
And
got a
maybe she
relative.
should have.
Well, you know, $1 million isn't as much as it used to be, but
No,
you know,
but
it's true what you're saying, Dave, is that I think statistically, half the people who win lotteries later say it ruins their lives.
and half of them are, and 70% of them that go broke within 2 years.
Yeah,
We need our challenges and struggles, and without them, we've got nothing to push against. But I think that's maybe more philosophical than we need to be here today. But
well, you know,
regardless,
my wife bought one, and I did not pray hard for us to win, because while I wouldn't give it away if we won it. I'm really just about as terrified of winning that kind of money as a lot of other things I can think of.
I would
Well, it
give,
seems so silly to me, because think about all the good that could be done in the world with that money. And I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I always tend to think that it tends to be a tax on people that can't afford things anyway, because they're paying money on a wish and a hope.
Mhm.
And so it's a tax on people with big wishes and big hopes that really don't have what they probably need to have in their lives. And so when you think of all the good that could be done with that money, it just seems like, well, why can't some fabulous cause get that money?
I'd give
instead?
almost all of it away as soon as I could. I don't need that kind of money.
It's
I wouldn't know what to
crazy.
do with it. But
Go ahead, Dave.
yeah,
Well, I was gonna ask, you know, like in terms of percentage, what do you think they could have worked out without going to court between Zelda and Victor? How about that
Well,
conversation?
I mean, again, I think it sounds like Victor was a jerk about it. And after a while, you're just like, I don't want to negotiate with you. I'm just going to keep the money. It could have been, I made you an offer, or I asked you what you thought and you said, it's all yours.
What would you have been willing to do if you were Zelda? What would you have shared with him?
Oh, I probably would have split it with him.
Right
Or
in half,
I
yeah.
might have even said, if Victor was a nice guy, I might have even said, you left something. Why don't you go check the numbers and let me know? Because you can really, the idea that you came up to somebody and said, here's your $1 million, I could have kept it. Now you've got a $1 million relationship there that could be worth more than the money.
That's
It
a beautiful
really
thought.
depends on who you're playing with.
That's a beautiful thought. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I think there was a movie like that, The Ticket or something like that.
Hmm.
Nicolas Cage. So yeah, 50-50. That's what I was thinking, and
Yeah.
just you were unknowing partners when that happened. So that's the way I look at it. That's the way I kind of look at it, is you were unknowing partners just by accident, and share equally.
Yeah,
But
everybody
I
comes
think-
out ahead.
Yeah, well, I still think you're writing a very nice story, and it's one we would all be proud to have written. But does she have any ethical obligation to do anything? I think I wouldn't think anything less of her if she decided to shut her mouth. And
Well, I'm so if you look at all the emotional weight of what he would have when he found out, and what she would have, contemplating what to do, 50-50 would leave you the quickest peace of mind, I think.
either that or
Overall.
having him never find out.
Yeah.
Or just go donate that bottle cap to the cause that you care about the
Yeah.
most, and then just
Yeah.
Just hand it to
you've
your
done
lawyer.
great things in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I'm
of course-
inclined to agree that, the idea in a perfect world, 50-50 would be the best solution. We already said we were partners in this unintentionally, but neither of us would have anything without the other.
Yeah.
I think today's point that very often when you introduce this type of situation, it brings out the worst in people. And here I am trying to do the right thing, and as we like to cynically say, no good deed goes unpunished.
Goes unpunished. Yeah.
And now I've got the guy taking me to court because he wants it all.
Mhm.
After I tried to do the right thing, I lied. Some of it may have to do with what I know about Victor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Maybe
That's true.
maybe there's a reason why Zelda didn't go to Victor, because she anticipated.
Do you know the outcome?
Well, but
of
according
this?
Yeah,
according
we're
to
just out of
ethics, it
time.
stays the same, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'll give you each a chance to sum up in a moment. But apparently, I was told that the New York State Court had them split the money.
Oh,
Good.
wow. I didn't know that. That's
Yay!
great. I
Well,
did not know.
I think that there is room for an ethical discussion here. I was pretty surprised at that.
Or an appeal.
Yeah, well,
Why
yeah,
were you surprised at that?
let's spend more of the money on fighting it in court.
Yeah.
Because
Well, there is a
it's-
human
They
nature
both
thing.
end up with a few dollars. When it's all over, the lawyers get everything.
Yeah. Once something is, Victor did not act like someone who was invested in this bottle cap until he found out it had value.
I think that happens a
That-
lot.
That
I
would
think
be
that
true for
happens
most
a
people,
lot.
though.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
that
why
much.
it becomes more of an ethical than a legal question. If I go to if you hear this from time to time, people buy paintings at yard sales and they turned out to be lost Rembrandts, or
Yeah.
is there an obligation to tell the people who sold
If
it
you
to
bought
you?
it from? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another good
That $10
thing
painting
to
I
chew
bought was
on,
Had
yeah,
they known what it was, they never would have sold it at that price.
right.
They think it's
But they've already spent the $37 million. So what do you do?
But they have a responsibility. I mean, so their responsibility is you have to hold them as able
right.
Yeah.
to know what they're doing. And if they made a choice, then they made a choice about that.
Well, and they're probably insured against that kind of thing anyway, because they're Christie's or Sotheby's or whatever. I mean, the stakes are high enough that you get Lloyd's of London involved. You're selling a $37 million painting to somebody. It turns out to be a fake.
Now, I was saying
But-
the other way around is you sell what you think is a fake for $25 and it turns out to be real.
Right.
Well, sometimes you make decisions not because of who the other person is, but because of who you are.
Well,
So,
yeah, and that
So if you go
really
to-
is the way it should be.
what do you think of that, Jonathan? So, I mean, if you go to a yard sale and you have some incredible thing like that, man, it would be an extraordinary thing to me, anyways, to do something in terms of sharing that. I mean, I helped my ex-wife, and believe me, there were many lawyers involved in that, I helped her own I helped her start and grow a drug addiction clinic. And, you know, it wasn't from who she was. It was just like from who I was. And it's helped a lot of people overcome addiction.
Yeah, and you know, I really admire that. I have a very dear friend whose ex-wife who walked out on him, 30 years ago, and she got ALS, and he went and stayed with her,
Yeah.
and was with her as she deteriorated. Which
Wow.
people do things that are really
Oh.
impressive.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
That do put questions like this in a certain context. But we're at the end of our time. So if each of you would like to take just a minute and sum up your final thoughts, Dave, you want to start us off?
I think my final thoughts, I haven't drifted too much. I like all of the nice solutions and would probably be the first person to try, depending on who I was dealing with, to negotiate something like that. But I don't think she's unethical at all if she just pockets the money, as long as she shuts up and doesn't try to make anybody feel bad about it or invite the conflict that she got by opening her mouth.
Carl?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, and everybody. It was a great discussion. I think they were, unknowing partners in this, and it has the least mental impact and emotional drain and whatever ethical issue if they just split it.
Kimberly, last word.
Oh, I agree. I couldn't not split it. I mean, I think I couldn't live with that. I would have a hard time knowing that that would feel selfish to me. I don't think I could. That would go against my own sense of what is right and wrong. So I couldn't do it otherwise. Would I judge? Do I judge her for? Yeah, probably a little bit.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I get so tired of people saying, "I'm not judging
selfish to
anybody."
me when you have come into so much to keep it all for yourself when you're not the only player in the game. So that's just. But of course, I have not come into a situation like that. So who knows in real life?
Yeah, and I will finish off just a little bit like Solomon, because I do, my inclination is also split at 50-50, but I think that Dave is onto something that some of it will have to do with what I know about the other person. If I have reason to believe that this is not someone who will accept 50-50, then that might play into the calculation. So anyway, always lots to think about, and that's what we're here
So
for.
much.
So thank you all. Appreciate you joining me, and look forward to the next time. For those of you who are watching or listening, if you'd like to suggest an ethical scenario or dilemma for us to discuss, please go to my website, jonasandgoldson.com. Use the contact information, send in your thought. If it's something compelling, we will definitely take it up on a future episode, not on a past episode. If you would like to become a Grappling with a Gray member, please go to gwtg.live, where you can sign up for a free 30-day trial, enjoy member benefits. If you'd like to raise your ethical awareness, you can also go to jonasandgoldson.com/freebie to request a free ebook, white paper, or infographic. Please join us again next week for another ethical discussion as our panel grapples with the gray.
Thank you.